from Department of General Surgery, Sree Balaji Medical College. I am a senior resident and a member of Association of Surgeons India, a skilled laparoscopic assistant, surgery assistant. Today's session is on principles of operative surgery. So, principles of operative surgery broadly aiming to evaluate whenever a patient comes who requires a surgical management. So, we need to evaluate the patient initially, prepare for him or her for the surgery, and plan the procedure what is needed for the patient, and we need to deliver the results of the surgery. So, this entire process is quite planned in a proper manner. This things are the basics in principle of operative surgery. So, this procedure, whenever a patient presents to the OPD, initially what you need to do is history taking and detailed examination of the patient. Based on the history and examination, you will come to a clinical diagnosis upon which you will send the patient for necessary investigations. Once the investigation comes, you will plan and prepare for the needed surgical intervention. For example, if a patient is having a molar abscess, that is an oral cavity abscess in the molar region, so what the patient can present with symptoms such as severe pain can be there, fever can be there. So generalized difficulty in chewing food can be there. So imagine this patient is coming to you and patient is giving the detailed history. You have examined the patient and you come to a diagnosis. Okay, this patient is having a abscess at the area of the molar right lower molar region. He is having a abscess. So based on this, you have come to a diagnosis. Now the next treatment plan which needed to be done is an incision and drainage of the abscess. But before that, before you go for the incision and drainage, you need to evaluate the patient. You send the patient for necessary investigation. So this entire protocol is a pre-operative workup of the patient. So whenever we receive the patient, we need to do what we do is a pre-operative risk assessment, because any procedure is associated with certain amount of risk. For example, certain low risk less than 1% is there in all superficial surgeries, dental surgeries, eye surgeries, reconstructive surgeries in a healthy individual. So whereas there is a risk of 1 to 5% in intra-abdominal surgeries such as splenectomy, hiatic hernia, there is a high risk of more than 5% in aortic and major vascular surgeries and limb salvage procedures or amputation procedures. So in order to assess the patient, we need to assess the risk which is there in the patient. So there is American Society of Anesthesiologists have classified ASA criteria into 6 groups. So ASA 1 is when the patient is healthy and normal. He is a non-smoker, non-alcoholic, healthy individual. ASA 2 is again patient is having mild systemic diseases, could be a diabetic, could be a hypertensive, but it is under control. Pregnancy also comes under ASA 2 category only. ASA 3 is severe systemic disease, which means the patient is on proper medication, but the disease is in a fluctuating state. For example, sugar is non-diabetic on medication, but there is a fluctuation of sugar is there. Non-case of hypertensive on regular medication, but there is a BP drop and BP acceleration is there on and off. So there is a severity of the systemic disease. ASA 4 is a severe systemic disease which has a severe threat to the life. So this condition can cause life threatening, it can cause death of the patient. So you need to be very careful while planning the procedure. ASA 5 is that there is significant amount of morbidity, that there is a possibility of patient's death. We may lose the patient, but the surgery at this point of time is needed for the patient's survival. That is ASA 5. ASA 6 is for brain dead patient, where the patient is a organ donor. For example, you would have heard of heart transplant surgeries, you would have heard of liver and multiple organ donated by a brain dead individual. So in that condition, ASA 6 is applied. So this is to assess the risk of every surgery. So not always the patient comes into your OPD. There can be a chance of receiving the patient in emergency settings also. So emergency settings, if the patient is showing up to you with a significant amount of facial trauma, maxillary fracture with mandibular fracture, so immediately you need to intervene. So based on which the duration, if you have to shift the patient emergency into the OT, that is emergency evaluation of the patient, according to World Society of Emergency Surgery, and the time of acute care surgery. Previously in 2023, 2013th edition, there was this criteria was given as immediately, which means once the patient enters into the casualty, immediately also you can shift the patient for surgery to the 48 hours from the diagnosis is the time period given previously. And now current TACS classification gives a immediate, that is when you decide we need to shift the patient immediately to the 4-day of diagnosis. So based on which we will plan the investigation, we will get the ASA fitness for the procedure. And if it is a geriatric patient, generally in international standards say that 65 years is considered to be geriatric. In Indian standards, mostly above 60 itself, we can consider geriatric. So if geriatric patients are there, you need to check for any cognitive impairment is there or not. Or a functional status of the patient, whether the patient is able to do the day-to-day activities, any impairment in his lifestyle, muscle strength, balance, gait, all those things comes when it comes to geriatric patient. In order to assess the cognitive impairment, you can do a mini cog scoring system by which has 3 steps. First, you will tell the patient 3 words, 3 random words, for example elephant, bus, apple, and ask him to repeat the 3 words. So if he is able to retain and repeat it immediately, so he is able to, that then you can give a score of 1. Then give him the next task, which is give him a white paper, ask him to draw a clock. If he is able to draw a clock with all the numbers 1 to 12 and put the markings properly, to make it more specific, tell him a time. Kindly draw a time of 4:30 or 5:55. So he is able to draw the big handle and the small needle properly according to the time. If it's 4:30, the small needle in the 4, the long needle in the 30. If he's able to draw it properly, then he gets one more mark for it. And after once he draws the diagram properly, ask him to say the first 3 words he has we have told him to remember. We have asked him in the first place. So he's able to tell that elephant, bus and pen, then which means that the patient is having a normal cognitive, there is no specific cognitive impairment is there or not, you will be able to make out. So based on which, if there is a score of 0 to 2 is clinically suggestive of mild suspicion of impairment is there. If the score is 3 to 5, there is suggestive of no gross impairment is there. But if you find if there is any cognitive impairment is there, you need to consult, you need to send the patient for psychiatric evaluation to rule out any kind of cognitive impairment and delirium kind of effect. Because post-operatively also patient can develop delirium episodes which can affect the prognosis of the outcome of the patient's recovery. So that is one approach. If geriatric patient, elderly patient is there, you need to give a comprehensive care. If it is an emergency procedure, you will do whatever it is investigation which is necessary for the time being, but ASA scoring is mandatory. Then another standard approach in preoperative preparation is system-wise approach. We will make sure cardiovascular system, pulmonary, renal, hepatobiliary, hematological, endocrine and nutritional status of the patient. All this system-wise the patient is stable or fit for the procedure or not. Then once the patient is properly prepared and we are ready to shift the patient for surgery, I mean before shifting the surgery, we need to obtain informal consent because there are lots of ethical issues. So you need to explain when you discuss the procedure that you need to discuss about the diagnosis of the patient, the process of procedure, the risk of the surgery and likelihood of success of the procedure. And then mental capacity of the patient also you need to be documented. If the patient has some amount of cognitive impairment, you need to say that okay, the patient is having cognitive impairment. You need to note it down because post-operatively these things becomes medically significant. And then after all the explaining the process, after then obtaining the consent from the patient, then the patient is shifted to operation theatre. Once the patient is shifted into the operation theatre, there is something called as a surgical checklist. So this surgical checklist happens in three different steps. That is before induction of the anesthesia. before the patient is given either complete general anesthesia or a specific local anesthesia. You need to initiate the checklist process. Then the second check happens when before making the skin incision, before the surgeon is starting the procedure. You need to do the second checking, and the third checking will be done before the patient leaves the operation theatre. In these three steps, we are ensuring the patient safety. The procedure is the procedure which is being told is being done, and it is done to the correct patient, so that we can prevent any level of error in any of the steps. So once that is done, that is how in operation theatre, under aseptic precaution, after putting sterile drapes, the patient is placed for the procedure, and the surgery is planned. If incisions has to be marked, you will mark with sterile marker and will continue with the procedure. And during the procedure also, intraoperatively, any blood loss is there, everything is being properly monitored and reported to the anesthetist and to the operative surgeon. Then post procedure, once the skin is closed, then also they'll check whether what is the general condition of the patient. Anything, any instrument or a gauze is missing, any surgical equipment has been damaged, or surgical equipment have been used in some complication inside the OT, everything is noted down during the operative period. Once the surgery is done, completed, the patient is shifted to post-operative. Once the patient shifted to post-operative, we start the post-operative care. The main aim of post-operative care is to assess the patient's outcome of the patient from the surgery, how the patient is improving. If the patient is having any symptomatic issues, we will manage it symptomatically, giving analgesics, IV antibiotics, and preparing the patient properly. Post-operatively, once the patient is stable, we can follow the patient as OPD basis, also as outpatient basis, once the patient can be discharged. So this is the broad underlining of the surgical principle. So there is a certain amount of precautionary measures we need to do once we receive the patient, and once we establish the diagnosis, we need to work up the patient with proper care, explain the process, get the consent. During surgical procedure also, we follow the standard principles and protocols, and once that is done, we will shift the patient. Surgery will be done, and after the surgery also, we will follow the patient up throughout the process to establish the better outcome for the patient. So that is in elaborate the standard principles of operative surgery. Hope the session was fruitful. Thank you.